So we're starting to see something very, very interesting happen. And I wonder if this is what truly ends up breaking the Brexit group in the Conservative Party. Because we have seen over the past couple of days Brexiteers fall out with other Brexiteers. And we have not seen that, well, for some considerable time. I think you'd really have to go back to like when Nigel Farage took over UKIP and he had a falling out with Robert Kilroy Silk about sort of the direction that he wanted to take UKIP in. That's ancient news we're talking about here. So the fact that we are now getting Brexiteers falling out with other Brexiteers, the question has to be asked, why? And it comes down to this. Sooner or later, Brexiteers have to answer one question. And it is simply this. What was the point of Brexit? And you cannot just say sovereignty or trade or whatever one word answer the Brexiteers always used to come up with, because they're not talking to other non-Brexiteers. They're talking to themselves, and they want a more substantial answer than just one word. And I think this is the point we are reaching now. And today we're going to go over Suella Braverman, who has come out publicly and, well, rubbished the trade deal that the UK wants to do with India. So before we get into her comments, what she made very recently, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, you can also use the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the YouTube subscription button as well, called the Pony Club, where you can join that and you get sort of badges, emojis, and all sorts you can use on the channel. And of course, there's the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there's my Patreon link down below as well. And like I say, thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel that way, even if you do just hit the like and share button. So, Brexit has always functioned as a single community, as a single idea. But the problem always was when you started to maybe mold Brexit into something, that's where you started to get problems. Because even in with this sort of Brexit coalition that is always talked about, there are different ideas, different competing groups. It is sheer madness. Remember, we've seen Conservatives argue that Brexit was a good idea, but wanted the UK to remain in the single market and customs union. We've seen that happen in real time, and those were the first lot to be booted out because they were seen as the betrayers of Brexit. So Boris Johnson very ceremonially gave them the boot from the party. And of course, along comes Boris Johnson's New Deal of trying to solve the problem that Brexit created. Hasn't really solved the problem. But now that you've got this very small group of libertarian conservatives who have effectively, as we've said before, taken over the party, they're now in control, and they are the ones who are now molding this Brexit clay. And a lot of other people who were maybe Brexiteers or were sort of quite soft on the ideas of what they wanted Brexit to do, or sort of for the first time ever really asked the question, hold on, what is the point of Brexit? And of course, we are now starting to see some of these answers. And you may remember we've talked about the Indian trade deal before, that Modi and his government is not going to do a trade deal with the UK unless, first of all, India is given a lot of market access, which could cause a lot of economic problems over here for businesses here. But also, he is going to demand more visa access. And that has been on the table since day one, since the talks about an Indian trade deal have been talked about. And of course, Suella Braverman has now decided to speak out against this whole deal, which essentially means that any Brexit Indian trade deal is now effectively dead in the water. And as many Brexiteers will tell us, that Brexit was meant to be about trade, but you've now just killed one of the big potential trade deals that you wanted the UK to do. So, what were her comments? Well, she told in a Spectator article this. She said, "I have concerns about having an open border migration policy with India because I don't think that's what people voted for with Brexit." When asked if she would actually support a deal if it only involved greater flexibility for students and entrepreneurs, she had this to say: "I do have some reservations. Look at migration in this country. The largest group of people who overstay are Indian migrants. We've even reached an agreement with the Indian government last year to encourage and facilitate better cooperation in this regard, and it has not necessarily worked very well." So you have the Home Secretary gunning for trying to cut, at the moment, as she said very recently, she wants to have cut migration by these massive targets, something which even Theresa May got absolutely pilloried for when she was Home Secretary and used to constantly attack her for. Now, Braverman is making the exact same pledges, which in the past failed spectacularly. And why is she doing this? Because apparently she thinks that's what people didn't vote for Brexit for. But the problem is, other people in her party think far differently and said, no, we wanted Brexit because we wanted all this trade. And as I said just moments ago, if you want trade with India, you have to give up visa access. That is the only way this trade deal is going to fly, or else Modi, given sort of his economic policies and what he is doing with sort of, the India sufficiency policy that he has, he doesn't need a trade deal with Britain. He doesn't care. And unless Britain gives him that visa access, it ain't going to happen. So, interestingly enough, there was another Conservative, a senior source, who responded to her comments that had this to say: "No one knows why Braverman made those comments. That promise was used time and time again to criticize Theresa May when she was Home Secretary." So she's going to be absolutely criticized for that ultimately. But the bigger picture here, especially when it comes to Brexit, essentially means that you have a government who is desperate to pursue any and do any trade deals whatsoever. And I have to really wonder that we've seen a couple of trade deals done at extreme speed under Boris Johnson and give up a lot of things that are going to cause a lot of trouble for sort of UK manufacturers, UK farmers, and other areas in the UK. I now have to wonder at what speed and what, well, essentially sovereignty and access to the UK markets this government is going to give up, which will cause huge economic problems for here, certainly. Because I'll tell you this now, a lot of people voted for Brexit because they thought that it would get rid of globalism. And yet, a lot of this Brexit libertarianism is obsessed with the idea of globalism and sort of selling out the UK. And that seems to be the direction of travel that not Theresa May, that Liz Truss and her fellow Brexiteer libertarians are indeed set on course for. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.